Welcome to the Global Pulse, a short video series where our experts break down a trending topic in international business and why it matters to you.
The European Union appears to have big tech in its crosshairs. Their discontent has been apparent for a while now. The complaints are familiar that companies such as Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon, and Microsoft have too much market power and that they use this to inhibit competition. People point to acquisitions by Facebook of companies such as Instagram and WhatsApp, Apple's App Store rules, something that the EU is currently investigating, and the bundling of Chrome with Android by Google, which already led to a $5 billion fine levied by the EU. It's also claimed that big tech companies are excessively intrusive and that they're not transparent about how they use the data that they collect. It probably doesn't help that there's a general feeling in Europe that these very rich companies do not pay their fair share in taxes, even as they profit from data that's collected from European users. In Europe, the pandemic appears to have added to the pressure to do something about the power of tech firms. The European Competition Commissioner, Margrethe Vestager, remarked that the coronavirus showed how dependent Europe is on US corporations. This strengthens, in her view, the case for taking action to modify the behavior of these companies. The concern about the power of tech firms is not limited to Europe. The US Congress recently released a report on competition in digital markets, which claims that big tech companies have immense market power and that they abuse this power. Indeed, the US Justice Department is said to be considering a breakup of Google by forcing the sale of the Chrome browser. The EU is currently in the process of revising the legal framework for digital services within the European Union with the goal of fostering innovation and competitiveness. This is likely to result in new regulation to ensure fairness, by which I mean fairness also towards competitors and startups in markets that are dominated by large platforms which have the power to act as gatekeepers. In addition, the draft proposals would increase the responsibility of platforms when it comes to policing the content and products that happen to be on the platform. The newest twist in the story is recent reporting by the Financial Times that the EU is creating what they call a hit list, consisting of 20 large internet companies, which are likely to include Silicon Valley giants such as Google, Facebook, Apple, and others. This story is generating a lot of buzz. Companies on the hit list would be subject to tougher regulations than smaller companies. The intent also is to force a change in business practices and behavior of these companies without going through a costly and lengthy investigation and reaching a finding that the company has broken laws. Action from such investigations, it's argued, tend to be delayed and weak, and eventual fines end up having no deterrent effect on what are some of the world's richest companies. Some of the tougher new regulations rumored to be under consideration include data sharing with rivals and the public and much greater transparency. There's also talk of breaking up some of these companies, although it's not clear how the EU proposes to break up US corporations. EU action on US corporations also risks initiating a trade war with the US, especially with the current administration. So where does this leave us? It's early days yet on this front, but what is clear is that there's greater resolve in the EU to take actions to curb the power and change the behavior of tech firms. And sentiment along these lines has been building in the US as well, on both sides of the aisle to varying degrees. What form the EU's new regulations will eventually take is not entirely clear. However, I would venture to guess that big tech is going to face tougher regulation both here and in the European Union in the not so distant future.